Good, everybody? Jenster here. Now, I've been selling art professionally for about a decade. I went to art school, took some business classes, and have steadily been growing a freelance career. I sell at my city's comic convention every year, I do contract work like logos and web design, and of course, I take monthly commissions. I decided I'd like to make a video talking about the do's and don'ts of taking commissions. I've been teasing this for a long time, and now I'm finally getting around to covering it. There's a few reasons why I decided to make a video on this topic. Number one, because I've taken commissions and sold my art at a pretty young age, I get asked by upcoming artists how I do it. Everyone's experience is different, of course, but I'm more than happy to offer some positive insight. Number two, I still look up tutorials for commissions because there's always more to learn. However, in the videos that I've watched, there's a few crucial topics that I don't get to see talked about that much. I feel they're incredibly important, so I'd like to shed some light on them myself. Number three, I've had multiple interactions with people coming to my DMs and asking me if I want to commission them. Sometimes the text sounds like a scam because it's very scripted, but if these artists are serious about getting commissions, I want to explain to them why this is an unprofessional approach. Number four, I'm not a fan of the videos that discourage you while they teach you at the same time. You know, the ones that go, your commissions are trash, you're doing everything wrong, and you'll never be professional if you don't fix it. Most of the time, it's just an attention-grabbing title or just a way to keep viewer interaction. Even if the actual advice is truthful, though, this learning style doesn't work for me, and I'm sure it doesn't work for some either. Being told my methods are trash doesn't make me want to improve. Honestly, it makes me feel like a failure. And of course, in the real world / the real industry, you can't escape criticism like this, so it's good to know how to handle it. But I want to try and make an advice video that is done subjectively and in a tough love style, not a making you feel bad style. Now, real quick before we start, most, if not all, payment services require you to be 18 or older for an account. If you're underage and still want to take online commissions, you'll need your parent or guardian's help to get started. I won't be teaching you how to do that. This is more for people who are 18 and older and have access to these payment methods in the first place, but it doesn't hurt to get some ideas for when the time finally comes. You ready? Let's talk. So let's start with do number one. Have a terms of service. See, terms of service, or TOS for short, is the exchange agreement between artist and commissioner. It explains what to expect from the artist and what the commissioner is allowed to do after the exchange. Simply put, if you want to use my service, here are my terms. I personally don't see TOS talked about often, despite its importance in the commission process. It tends to get lumped together with choosing what you offer in the first place. While offers are definitely a part of the TOS, a good TOS can also protect you from scams and being taken advantage of. See, scammers are always looking for ways to get more for less, especially with art commissions for some reason. A scammer might take advantage of a weak refund policy, asking for their money back and running off with a near-completed piece. A customer might ask for constant edits or a complete redo because the artist didn't specify a limit on the amount of edits they offer. If you don't put something in your TOS, even if it should be common courtesy, clients will assume it doesn't apply or purposefully go against it because there's no proof. Like, it should be obvious that removing the artist's watermark and claiming the art as your own is discouraged. But if you don't put that in your TOS, people will do it because they don't have an excuse not to. If it is in your TOS and your client breaks the agreement, you can take proper action because it's right there in writing. Let me show you the TOS on my commissions page so you can get an idea of what to include with it. Firstly, I have my commission sheet. It shows a quick taste of my art style, prices, and drawing subjects in one convenient graph. This grabs the potential client's attention while explaining my services, all without a wall of text to search through. I also have links to order forms depending on the commission type. This way, if a client knows exactly what they want, they can start placing the order without emailing me for instructions. Scrolling down a bit, I have my payment terms. See, a TOS isn't solely to protect artists from bad business, it's also to protect customers from bad business as well. I'd be lying if I said there aren't artists who take advantage of commissions and scam their clients. Trust me, there's plenty. We've all heard stories of an artist opening commissions, running off with the money, and blocking attempts to get a refund. To make sure my clients trust my process, I include what to expect after the money is exchanged. Starting off, I allow partial payment for commissions over a certain amount. If something were to happen to me, like an emergency hiatus, a client who is willing to wait won't be at a huge loss. It also provides trust that I'll complete the commission in order to receive the full amount in the future. Now, I personally don't complete a commission until it's fully paid. That's just how I do it. I do so to prevent putting in time and effort only for a client to not pay me and try to run off with the completed work. Instead, I provide heavily watermarked progress images, so if a client did try to steal the art, it can be traced back to me and I don't suffer a loss. Once I've been paid, I take the watermarks off and leave just a simple signature instead. With this method, a client might be worried I'll take the money and not provide any art. That's why I include the progress images so they know I'm serious. I also include a refund policy. If they don't hear anything from me within 14 days, they can ask for a refund because I'm not being professional. This is just my personal refund preference, as I try to keep time zone differences in mind. If I give them plenty of time to hear back from me, then a time zone difference shouldn't cause communication issues. Next, I emphasize my offers just to make sure they're clearly visible and can't be missed. I included that I might decline a request even if it isn't listed in my terms. For example, I'm willing to draw mild nudity like swimsuits and pajamas because it's not explicitly mature. However, I don't draw anything more than that like full nudity or obvious NSFW. If someone asks me to draw a canonical minor in something like a cheerleader outfit, I'll still decline it even if it's not obviously spicy. Some spicy material is not explicit on the surface, so while it might not look bad to an unknowing audience, I don't want to make any fuel for gratification, if you know what I mean. There's also been times I've declined commissions because of a client's post history. I'll go over this later in the video because I have a specific point that ties directly into this. Lastly, I include how I expect my art to be used after it's complete. While I can't exactly control my art after it's gone, I don't want to bring harm to my business. I ask my clients not to use work in progress images, or WIPs for short, before payment to prevent the following: theft, impersonation, tracing, pretending to be the owner of the art and using it for their own commission examples, and especially nowadays, not to be used for AI training. Sharing the WIPs is okay with permission, of course, like in Discord with friends. I even explain that credit is not necessary after the commission is done, as I include my signature in it, but credit is still appreciated. I also ask my clients not to use the art for monetization, such as logos or advertisements. The reason for that is buying an art piece for $30 only to passively make hundreds from it isn't exactly fair if it wasn't agreed upon. While not every business commission needs royalties, commercial art intended for future gain should have an agreement making the loss, quote unquote, worth it. That's why I offer separate services for commercial work, since that requires more direction than a simple Google form. Now, the point of all this is not only to streamline the commission process, but to prevent losses if the contract gets broken. I can tell when a client is ignoring my terms and politely decline the exchange without sounding rude. At the most extreme, I'd also be able to take legal action if necessary, such as a DMCA if it came to it. Plus, my client knows exactly what to expect from me and will be more trusting during my process. That covers our first do. Now let's move on to our first don't. Don't number 1, don't ghost your customers. While you might be thinking, well, duh, why would somebody do that? Artists ghosting their customers happens way too often. We've all seen posts of someone commissioning an artist, getting no feedback on the art status, and either see the artist continue to make personal art, or straight up block them and disappear off the face of the earth. Not that customers don't ghost the artists they've commissioned either, but artists taking the money and running gives us a bad reputation. I'm sure the amount of times artists have done that is way less than the amount of successful exchanges. However, enough publicity will push those negative interactions front and center. The more reasons customers have to distrust artists, the harder finding commissions is going to be, and the more people might turn to things like AI for their art needs instead. While yes, there are some artists that are just scammers, I personally don't think every ghosting situation is malicious. Sometimes an emergency happens and a commission takes longer to finish than expected. An artist might worry their customer won't be patient and will want a refund, so they just don't tell them. As much as artists don't want to lose a sale, staying silent and making excuses will only lose the sale further. Plus, word on bad art business spreads fast, deterring any future clients from seeking you out. If something happens like an emergency or even burnout, be honest with your client. 99% of the time, clients will understand and be willing to wait. There's been times where a complex commission has put me over the original time frame I gave another client. I also work a regular day job right now, so that can cause delays in my art as well. While this could change, so far when I tell clients a commission is delayed and explain why, nobody has asked for a refund. If a client isn't willing to wait and asks for a refund anyway, it's better to just oblige than try to convince them not to. What also helps is messaging first. Instead of waiting for the client to ask you for an update, reach out to them and let them know what's going on. It shows sincerity and professionalism, letting them know you care about their time. This actually ties in with the next do I'm going to cover. Do number 2, give yourself a time frame. While not always an essential part of taking commissions, Having a time frame can build trust with your clients as well as keep you as an artist organized. If a client has an idea of how long the wait might be, they'll be understanding and more patient from the beginning. For an artist, timeframes can help organize your schedule and lower the risk of burnout. That being said, make sure you have a reasonable time frame. Don't make it too short to realistically accomplish your art. Here's how I calculate my time frames. How much free time I have in the day to draw, how long it usually takes me to complete parts of a drawing, and how much time I need between sessions for a healthy break. I add my break time to my commission schedule to help me avoid burnout. The time frame that works best for me is 14 days. That gives me time to draw around my job, take breaks, and let my client know how long they'll need to wait. If I get the commission done early, that's a bonus. I put in my TOS that if no progress has been shared, visually or verbally, within that 14-day schedule, my client is allowed a refund. This incentivizes me to stay focused on the commission if I want to keep the sale. It also gives me time to let the client know if I need an extension without the risk of ghosting them. Also, share work in progress images. They can essentially be used as timestamps, proving you're serious about the project and staying within your promised time. Now, depending on the commission, the same time frame isn't going to work for everybody. Some artists can finish commissions within a week. How? I don't know. You guys are amazing. Others, especially if it's a physical craft, need months or even years to complete their commission. I highly recommend looking at your free time and how long it usually takes to complete your personal art to calculate a reasonable time frame for your customers. The less stressful, the better. Speaking of which, that goes right into our next don't. Don't number 2, don't overdo it. Just like having a stressless time frame, don't overdo it with the rest of your process. It's easy to think, oh, the more commissions I take, the more money I'll make. That sounds good until you have 30 commissions pending, get overwhelmed, and people accuse you of being a scammer because you aren't finishing fast enough. Yes, some customers can be impatient and will keep asking if you're done yet. For that, all you can do is share any work in progress you have and let them know you're working on it. However, it's also possible to bite off more than you can chew. Burnout is a real thing for professional and amateur artists alike. Drawing for long periods of time, especially art for other people and not your own passion projects, can feel stale and wear down your motivation. There's nothing wrong with letting your clients know you're taking a mental break and will get back on schedule as soon as you can. Taking on too many commissions can accelerate your burnout and make it hard to meet those deadlines. When your breaks go from weeks to months and your deadlines are constantly missed, it hurts the trust from your clients. Now, instead of having 30 paychecks, you have 30 refunds and 30 negative reviews. My advice is to start small and add up as you go. Open 5 commission slots, for example, and see how long it takes you to complete them all, especially around obstacles like a day job or school. If you finish them all relatively quickly and still feel you have time for more, add some more slots to your next queue. It's okay to mix and match if you have commissions with varying levels of effort. Headshot art might take you less time than full renders, so you can have 10 slots open for headshots and 5 open for renders. The amount of work for me is 20 commissions per month. Usually, I don't fill all 20 slots for the month, and when I do, it's not all at once. I do 5 slots per commission type, 5 headshots, 5 half bodies, 5 full bodies, and 5 special commissions like seasonal themes. I started with doing 5 commissions total, mostly because I started taking them during school and didn't have lots of free time. As I improved with the business side of things and gained more free time after graduating, I slowly added more slots until I reached my limit. With 20 slots, I'm able to take breaks within the queue so I'm not burning myself out. I also have time to rest after my queue is finished before I open slots up again. What's helped me, especially with finding my commission limit, is scheduling my downtime as well as my work. I don't recommend scheduling every minute of your day, but it might be helpful to see how much free time you have and plan your stress relief according to it. See, my brain operates best with structure. I like having an hourly schedule with room to add or take away. For example, right now I have a day job that keeps me busy until 5 p.m. each day. It took a lot of trial and error, but I have dedicated each day of the week to one type of task and specific time slots to rest and relax. If you want this to grow into a full-time job or want to get better at handling comms in general, I recommend starting small and building up with practice. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Be honest with your customers if you start to burn out, and make time for rest as well as work. Now I'm going to talk about a do that I don't see mentioned a lot, but I personally think it's important. Do number 3, check post history. Opinions on this will change from artist to artist, but I think it's a good idea to skim your client's social media before accepting a commission. Let me give you an example as to why. Years ago, I took a commission from someone who seemed really nice. They left positive comments on my artwork, so I was happy to do business with them. About halfway through the commission or the line art stage for me, I decided to check their profile to see what the rest of their art looked like. What I found was art of their OC mutilating and eating demographics of people they didn't agree with. I was no longer comfortable with the commission because I did not want to support blatant hate speech. I refunded them the money, but my one regret was I didn't tell them it was because of their art. I said I got too busy with IRL responsibilities, which wasn't a lie. I did have a lot going on. That's why I was taking commissions at the time. I'm not saying you have to get the dirt on every client that comes to you, nor am I saying you shouldn't take commissions from people who have different opinions than you. But there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries and not wanting to fuel something like hate speech. Now, you can't always control what you're going to see on a private profile, but if it's public and anybody can see it by just clicking on a username, it's okay to decline something because you're seeing things that make you uncomfortable.
Besides profiles, it's also a good idea to check the subject of commissions if you don't recognize them. Let me share another story. I'd gotten a commission some time ago for obviously gratifying art. They sent me a rough of the character they wanted, and I didn't recognize it, so I thought it was their OC. I told them I wasn't comfortable with the subject matter, but I'd still draw the character if they let me stay SFW. I really shouldn't have offered that, but I was desperate for money. Surprisingly, they agreed, and I accepted the transaction. Around this time, I had been reverse image searching ref art from my clients. I heard stories of people's OCs being stolen for scams, so I was trying to be mindful of that in my own business. After reverse searching the ref art just to be safe, I found out the character was not the client's OC. The character was actually from a animated show for preschoolers and was canonically 5 years old. I've never heard of this show, and now I didn't care that the commission was SFW. I had been asked to draw this cartoon child in an inappropriate way, and if I hadn't had checked, I could have been flamed out of an art career. At least this time, I stood my ground. I gave them a full refund, told them I was uncomfortable, and would not be completing the commission. I tell this story to say this: if you get a commission with characters or themes that you don't recognize, do a quick search for the sake of your boundaries. As well as knowing the age of the characters from mature commissions, find out if they're from a series you'd be comfortable drawing in the first place. For a random quick example, I don't like Ren and Stimpy. It's too crude for my taste. If I got a commission to draw those characters, even if the request itself was SFW, I'd probably politely decline. I don't want to gain attention from a source I wouldn't be comfortable with in the first place. One last reason to do profile checks is that some gratifying art is not obviously gratifying. Just to be clear, this is not an attack on anybody's interests. However, tricking artists who are not comfortable with gratifying art, even if it's not explicitly NSFW, is disrespectful to their boundaries. I'll share one more story to go with this segment. While not a commission, I had opened a request thread back when my old DeviantArt account reached 1K watchers. Somebody had requested Bianca from the movie Sheeps and Wolves. The anthro part wasn't the problem. I draw anthros all the time. The thing I was uncomfortable with was they specifically asked me to include her navel. That's a belly button, by the way. Now, here's the thing. A belly button isn't a conventionally attractive thing, but to some people it is. A lot. Even though the art itself wouldn't be explicit, asking for that detail seemed like gratification to me, so I declined it. It's not uncommon for people to subtly commission SFW artists for gratifying art. Reasons may be SFW artists charge less, especially if they're just starting, they don't want to be outed by purchasing from explicit artists, and some just enjoy the thrill of evading boundaries, which is gross. See, I'm repulsed by feet. I don't even like drawing my own characters barefoot. Let's say I get asked for a commission with emphasis on open-toed shoes, like the client is adamant that they be viewable. If I go to their public profile and it's full of similarly specific art, I might assume that that's their interest and politely decline. No, the request itself isn't explicit, but I'm uncomfortable with making art very likely to be gratifying to someone. It's impossible to prevent entirely, but knowing patterns to look for can help avoid it more often. So to recap, I'm not attacking anyone's interests, but artists are allowed to have boundaries. If the content is publicly displayed, an artist seeing it and being uncomfortable is not snooping. Also, if you know an artist is uncomfortable with the content and still try to commission it subtly, that's disrespectful, don't do it. Now that that's out of the way, here's the don't that made me want to make this video in the first place. Don't number 3, don't beg, especially in DMs. This interaction has happened to me so much, I'm thinking it's either a scam or someone is teaching people to do this. It tends to go in this order. Hi, I like your OC. Aw, thank you, that's really kind. Do you mind if I make some fan art? Absolutely, I'd be honored. Cool, how much would you pay me if I sold it to you? What? How much would you pay me if I sold it to you? Sorry, I'm not looking for commissions right now. That's okay, when do you think you'll want to commission me? Well, not anymore now. Happening once, I'd assume it was just an artist desperate for commissions. Happening 4 or more times, that's when I think something's up. It's quite possible that this is a trending tactic for commissions. However, there's also signs of it being a scam. Some profiles who contacted me did have art examples, so they could draw unless the examples were stolen or AI. Other profiles had little to no art to show, and their post history was them constantly asking for followbacks. The most likely scam would be paying them and getting nothing, or AI in return. If this is a serious tactic people are trying though, it's really not a good business strategy. I get it, art is a very difficult career to maintain. Plus, it can be discouraging seeing people pay their rent with art while you're just trying to afford a coffee now and then. However, you're not going to get good business from begging and pushing your commissions onto people. Do you like pop-up ads, door-to-door salespeople, or petitioners coming up to you on the street? That's what going to people's DMs and asking for commissions is like. Even if someone was looking for commissions, cornering them like that will make them less likely to consider you. Word spreads fast. People aren't going to talk about how nice your art is, they're going to say how pushy you were, and that will hurt your business. Now, there's a huge difference between begging and asking. Obviously, in order to get, well, orders, you have to put yourself out there and advertise. Advertising isn't being pushy unless you're posting about your commissions every 5 minutes. Going to the comments on other people's artwork and saying, please give me a follow back and buy my art, is not advertising. I'll admit, I've made this mistake. I've posted my commissions over and over on my socials, but that looked like whining for sales. I've learned from that and have found much better ways to advertise without overdoing it. Here's a few of them. If a social media site has a place to link websites, put your commission link as the first option. You can let people know they're open and they'll click it when their curiosity is piqued. Advertise specific offers every once in a while. Even if you offer a variety of things, too much information at once can drive people away. If you like doing half-body art for a little bit, advertise that instead of all of your commissions to bring attention to just that offer. Lastly, look for threads where advertising is encouraged. As weird as it may sound, the biggest reach I've gotten for commissions has been Reddit of all places. There are plenty of subreddits where people can both post their commissions as well as buy them from each other. Some artists will even open engagement threads on their own posts, allowing people to advertise and mingle. Networking on art Discord servers is also a good place to look. Make sure they aren't allowing AI commissions though, not just because of AI in general, but because it's likely members will scrape each other's art for examples. Now, I'm going to tread this topic lightly because sometimes it is a necessary commission method, it just has a habit of getting abused. Don't beg for emergency commissions if there isn't a real emergency. Unfortunately, emergency commissions can get lumped with blatant lying techniques. For example, faking homelessness or injuries with stolen Google images. Enough artists and fake actors have used the term dishonestly, and that makes people more skeptical instead of wanting to help. Imagine following your favorite artist and seeing they're in desperate need of a large amount of money. They say it's for a time-sensitive emergency, and because you don't want to see them struggle, you donate to their cause. Then it turns out their emergency was buying a cosplay in time for a convention. That's not an emergency. It's begging, and it breaks the trust of your clients. After enough times, it will be like the boy who cried wolf. You'll have a real emergency like an unexpected pet bill and ask for commissions, but now your clients might assume you're lying again and not engage anymore. One time I actually advertised emergency commissions because I had a lot of expenses come out at once. My cat had an expensive surgery and my utility bills came out back to back. I was worried if another major expense happened, I wouldn't be able to afford it. I made a post saying it was an emergency, explaining the situation with the bills, but I didn't get any interaction. In fact, I was so embarrassed thinking I looked desperate, I deleted the post after a week. Since then, instead of putting the emergency label on my commissions, I came up with specialty deals like limited time YCHs and adopts. I'm personally able to do a lot of them at one time, so releasing them in batches helped me when I needed that boost. I'm not saying to never take emergency commissions. The generosity of caring people have literally been lifesavers before. However, since enough bad press has caused the method to look like begging, you've got to be careful with how you advertise. If you're worried people will be skeptical, try having pre-made art like prints or adopts ready. Emergencies could cause made-to-order commissions to take a while, and that might make clients wary, as you could take the money and not deliver. Pre-mades, pay-to-request live streams, offers you can do in the moment, let people know you're serious. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a luxury goal and wanting commissions to make it happen. If you're trying to save for a new phone, new art tablet, or a new gaming console, it's okay to mention that in your commission offers. You can even make an entirely separate commission commission type specifically to fund those goals. Clients know where the money is going and might be more generous because there's no urgency. It's an honest exchange. However, phones and consoles are not emergencies, so don't label them as emergencies. A drawing tablet could be a different story because if your income relies on art, not having that tool could make it an emergency. Long story short, don't beg or plead for commissions, advertise honestly, and have a backup plan if emergency commissions aren't filling as fast as you need them. Before I cover the last points of the video, here's a don't honorable mention. Don't sell assets that aren't yours, including tracing. Free to use and free to sell are not the same thing. If you need an asset for your commissions, make sure it says royalty free and check the licensing TOS. Just because you traced it does not make the license void. Plus, if you're selling traced work like it's made from scratch, that's a scam. And please, for the love of everything good, don't sell AI for commissions. Tracing AI for commissions, even if you typed the prompt yourself, still isn't a good idea. For one, no matter how you argue about it, it's theft. It's fueled by artwork that was taken without permission, therefore, it is profiting from assets that are not yours. No, selling fan art is not the same thing, that's for a future video. Second, no matter how artistic AI looks, it still has too many imperfections to make tracing worth it. If a client wants you to draw their character, AI can't recreate it without a database. It will be noticeable. Plus, if you feed your client's reference art into AI, especially without telling them, that is a huge invasion of their copyright. Look, I can't stop you if you advertise AI commissions and somebody buys it knowing it's AI. However, if you're selling AI commissions pretending you made it from scratch, that is a scam. Don't ruin your potential career by taking the easy or dishonest way out. It's not worth it and it can be nearly impossible to recover from. That's enough ranting, Jen. Here's the final do. Do number 4. Do use invoices. Originally, I was going to lump this together with TOS, but I think it's important enough for its own section. An invoice is like a receipt. It is proof of purchase between you and your client. It shows exactly what was agreed upon: the product, the cost, the extra details, all the important parts of the sale. There's a few reasons why invoices are super important. The biggest reason is, of course, honesty. If the client tries to say you forgot something, or they didn't ask for something and were overcharged, you literally have the receipt to back it up. It protects your business from bad press and helps you remember details so you don't forget to include them. Side note, if you're old enough for taxes and make enough money from art, invoices help with that too. Oh man, I'm gonna have to put my art sales on my taxes this year. Depending on what you use for sales, some art selling platforms keep track of invoices for you. I use Ko-Fi and Etsy for my, genre-specific commissions, and both those sites keep track of my sales information. They create the invoice for me depending on the terms I write. When it comes time for receipts, either from client miscommunication or taxes, I can pull them up whenever I need to. It's still a good idea to download them for records. You can never be too careful. I also use a PayPal business account for commercial work. The business version of PayPal has invoice tools built in. I can set up automatic templates or write them from scratch, and PayPal keeps track of them with every sale. Here's the reason I use it separately. The terms for one-off commissions are going to be different than logo design or a brochure, for example. If I'm making something that will profit someone else, a compensation agreement needs to be made. Why would I accept a commission for $30 for a business that plans to make thousands? An invoice makes sure all terms are agreed upon so no one takes advantage of the other. I know how much I'll be compensated, my client has total ownership, and if either one of us goes against contract, the receipts are indisputable. Careers can get ruined by hearsay. Keep your receipts. If you don't use a service with invoice tools built in, you can find free templates or use an external app like BLUESKY. And now for the final don't to end things off, don't number 4. Don't sell yourself short. Pricing art might be the hardest part of the commission process. Because artists like to compare, it can be really discouraging to see an Adopt, for example, sell for $500 when you're struggling to make $20. Now, I've seen arguments for both sides of this. People claiming artists are charging too much, and artists telling beginners not to charge too little. The criticism from overcharging usually comes from clients. Unfortunately, the instant gratification of internet culture, combined with the art's not a real job mindset, has hurt the perception of artist compensation. We've heard it all. You're just being greedy. Why are you charging so much for low quality work? I'm giving you exposure. And my favorite, I can get it cheaper from someone else. I never understood that one. I guess people think you're just dying for their business, and losing it will inconvenience you. If they're gonna dangle that over you like a carrot on a stick, then their business isn't worth it anyway. People tend not to view art on the same level as physical labor, like being a mechanic or even working in retail. I honestly don't know why, when art jobs have existed as far back as the Middle Ages. Royal figures would pay artists to make portraits for them. Michelangelo, not the turtle, was commissioned to paint the Sistine Chapel. Comic books, Saturday morning cartoons, those are art jobs. Anime, manga, those are art jobs. Logo design, animation studios, video game texturing, written literature. Those are all art jobs, and without them, we would have no enrichment. Before you say, well, with AI, we can generate things instantly and don't need to pay artists. Those results don't manifest from nothing. They are trained from art jobs and wouldn't exist without them. And don't even get me started on premium AI services. I will actually explode. The point I'm trying to make is this. Art is work, and nobody should work for free. Just because you're selling independently and not for a corporate studio doesn't mean you shouldn't be compensated. Art does involve a lot of labor. Depending on the medium, it can take weeks, months, or even years to finish a product. Besides, artists need to be able to eat, sleep, and enjoy their lives in between shifts, no differently than any other career path. The reason why commissions are pricey is because art is a luxury item. We don't need art the same way we need food. While we joke and say, I need to buy this plushie or I'll die, you won't starve to death if you don't purchase it. That doesn't mean it's bad to want art though. Besides supporting a business, we buy art for enrichment. Getting a cool print of our comfort character, or seeing an OC in a new style, that makes us happy, improving our mental health. I've talked about clients saying art is overpriced, but sometimes other artists think so too. Not gonna lie, I've been a bit jealous of other artists at comic conventions. Here I am selling my prints for cheap thinking people won't buy them otherwise, while another artist is selling out their entire stock at triple the price. Here's what I've learned though. If their clientele is willing to pay that much for their art and they can comfortably live off of it, that's the business they've created. It's easy to think it's unfair, but there's some things to consider before judging. For example, they've probably been selling their art longer than me. They've had more time and more resources to build an audience. They started from the bottom just like I did, found their niche, and made it to the top. Besides, I've spent hundreds of dollars on Sonic the Hedgehog merch. It is not my place to judge. I also mentioned some artists think that beginners charge too little. They fear it will set the standard for clients, making them expect low prices and still undervalue art as a job. So with all those viewpoints, how do you keep from selling yourself short? The first thing I advise is to calculate your work expenses. Especially with physical crafts, you need to cover the cost of materials. If it costs $100 for your paint or fabric, you need to sell art for $100 minimum and add a charge for your profit. If you can't sell one item for that much, split it between multiple commission types. For digital commissions, your work expenses are how long it takes to complete one and how complex the request is. You aren't going to spend 40 hours on a drawing just to be paid $10. You wouldn't even work as a cashier for that much. If you're worried about prices being too high for a beginner or not having a large social media presence to advertise with, here's an option. Keep your full price commissions on display, but offer discounts or cheap special offers once in a while. My full-priced offers are always on my page, but sometimes I do YCHs or adopts for cheaper than my made-to-order stuff. The accumulation of cheaper sales still adds to my business, both with actual money and drawing attention to my craft. By having the option open, a customer may decide they like my bigger offers or come back and order one after buying a cheaper offer. Likewise, I may do a discount on bigger offers to sell more of them at a time. The last option to help with pricing, reference what others are doing around you. You can't really steal another artist's prices. You can't sell that for $20, I'm selling that for $20. That doesn't work. If you're selling on a location like Etsy, for example, look up the type of art that you're selling and see what other artists are selling them for as well. Kind of find the average of what seems to be successful and apply that to your own stuff. If the average price for something you're selling is $50, don't sell it for $20. Sell it for $50, $40, or somewhere in that range. People are buying it for $50 because they feel it's worth the $50. Now, real quick, before we end the video, I want to emphasize the advice I talked about is what has been successful to me. Not everything is going to work for everybody, but it doesn't hurt to hear a different perspective. So I highly encourage you to keep looking up tutorials, keep following artists that you like, and see what they're doing and apply it to your own business. I also want to remind you, though, that it's not over. Despite everything that's going on, artists are still making sales. In fact, a lot of people are picking up the pencil and selling their art for the first time in protest to everything that's happening. I'm doing what I dreamed of since I was a kid. It may have took me decades to get here, but I'm here, and I had to start somewhere. So if this is the career path that you want to pursue, keep drawing, keep trying, keep on keeping on. But anyway, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. As always, I'm so glad you're here. If you liked what you saw and wish to support me, feel free to like the video, maybe subscribe if you haven't already. I'm currently switching from Patreon to Ko-Fi, but it is active already if you'd like to donate. I'll see you next time. Love ya, bless ya, peace out.